I still remember the feel of cold dirt under my bare feet, the way the night pressed, its ear against the door, like it was listening for my courage. If I had stayed, I think I would have vanished while still alive. So I opened the door. No suitcase, no note, just a ribcage full of thunder, and a road that didn't promise anything, except that it wasn't the place I was dying in. People think bravery is loud. Mine sounded like careful footsteps. My name is Lydia, and I grew up at the far edge of a big American city, the kind of edge where the paved streets give up, and the earth remembers its own name. Our house was the sort that weather doesn't respect. Patched boards, a roof that cleared its throat every time it rained, windows that tried their best but never won. At night, freight trains sliced the dark into clean pieces. They carried things I couldn't imagine owning. And sometimes, I swear their whistles sounded like my future calling me by a name I hadn't learned yet. My father. Molded bricks at a yard off the highway. He came home the color of the work, red dust in his hair, red dust in his lungs, red dust in the lines around his mouth. That meant we don't talk tonight. My mother prayed in a whisper. That smelled like soap. She could make the cheapest meal taste like a memory, worth keeping. She could fold a rag so neatly it felt like hope. When you're a girl in a small place, people hand you your life like a coat that isn't your size and say, "It'll do." I wanted school. Chalk dust on my hands. Books that let you leave without standing up. My father wanted quiet. A good steady husband. And a daughter who didn't set the house on fire with questions. Every time he said no, something small and stubborn inside me said maybe. I learned to hear the house. The way some people hear the weather. The way his boots hit the steps. The way a plate set down too hard meant nobody asked anything. The way my mother's eyes could be both a door and a lock at the same time. His name was Orlando. A year older. He worked in a mechanic's shed for cash, but his pockets were full of poems. He never wrote down. He brought me a newspaper once, wrinkled and late, and we read it on the back steps, like it was contraband. He said cities are like books. Some people only read the first chapter and act like they know the story. We didn't kiss then. We traded sentences. It was sweeter and far more dangerous. My best friend was Ivy. She had a laugh that sounded like it already forgave you. Her family's roof leaked in 3 places, and somehow she danced between the drops. We would walk home from the little school, with our elbows locked, naming the lives we wanted like you named stars. She said, "You, teacher or writer." I said, "You, nurse." We said the words as if saying them made a spine grow under each one. It was May, the sort of night when the air feels almost kind. The fight started over money and ended where most fights end, in the place that hurts the quietest person. I will not give you all the details. I don't owe that to the past. But I will tell you the feeling. A thin crack appearing in the floor. You've been told is safe. You hear it. You see it. You know, if you stand there one more night, the floor will keep its promise and open. When the house went still, when anger wore itself out and fell asleep, I packed what a girl can carry without being noticed. 2 shirts, a ribbon my mother once tied in my hair, a tiny photograph with a thumbprint right through the sky. Under a loose brick by the gate was a folded scrap from Orlando. Follow your own sky. The world is too big for cages. Some messages weigh less than air, and somehow still hold you up. Ivy waited at the corner. Under a tree that knew all our secrets. She pressed a roll of bread and a bottle of water into my hands like sacraments. "Sure?" she asked. "I'm not sure of anything," I said, "except that I can't stay." We held on too long, and then we did the brave part. You let go. The road felt like a question no one had ever answered. I walked toward the train tracks. Because trains go even when you don't. I kept thinking, if this is a mistake, at least it will be my mistake. Stations smell like 100 kinds of leaving. Men with lunch pails. Women with babies. People holding cardboard signs with the same word, written on different faces. Help. I bought a cheap ticket, with money hidden in the seam of my skirt. Sat by a window so the moving would look like progress. When the train began to sing on the tracks, I felt the floor. I'd always feared finally open, but this time it opened the sky instead. Big cities do not welcome you. They tolerate you until you learn their manners. I slept on benches. One pretended were porches. Counted coins until the edges bit my fingers. Learned which streetlights lied about being safe. Hunger is loud. Pride is louder. But cold at 3 a.m. is the loudest thing I've ever heard. It empties you of everything except the part that insists. Keep breathing. I met Mrs. Azira. On a day I had run out of plans. She found me sitting on her stoop, counting the same 6 coins over. And over like they might hatch. "What's a girl like you doing alone?" she asked. "Trying to look like I belong," I said. "You belong where you are willing to work," she told me. "Come in. Tonight you eat. Tomorrow we make a plan." Her boarding house smelled like onions and mercy. I scrubbed floors, peeled sacks of potatoes, lifted pans so heavy they could teach you your own bones. In return I got a narrow bed, 2 meals, and a door I could lock from the inside. Dignity is the first blanket that actually warms you. I learned bus routes by heart. And the hour when every street grows teeth. I learned which bakeries sold yesterday's bread for the price of a thank you. And how to keep 2 coins in a pocket you forget you have. Odd jobs appeared like stepping stones. Tagging buttons at a notions shop. Moving boxes in a warehouse. Sweeping when no one else wanted to stay late. I was cheap and careful and on time. It isn't glamorous, but it stacks up into a life. At night, I poured coins into a glass jar and called it future. It made a sound like rain. And I slept better. It was a Sunday afternoon. In a square full of pigeons and opinions. I was reading a library book the wrong way. Back to front because I like to know if hope survives. I looked up. And there he was. Grease on his hands, ink on his sleeves. The same bright to his eyes. He worked in a print shop now. Paper, color. The miracle of letters. "I make words stick," he said, laughing. We walked for hours, 2 people who had learned how not to rush happiness, in case it ran away. We didn't say forever. We said let's walk some more. The garment warehouse sounded like 1,000 clocks disagreeing. Machines stitched time together all day long. I became quick with my hands and steady with my temper. Eventually, I wasn't just the girl who followed directions. I was the woman who trained newer girls. How not to be hurt by a process that doesn't care about your fingers. I learned to read numbers, the way I used to read clouds. Looking for storms before they arrived. On payday, I bought 3 things. Bus fare, soap that smelled like lemons, and forgiveness for the week behind me. After months at the boarding house, I found a room with a single window and a stubborn sliver of afternoon sun. The paint peeled like it wanted to talk about the past, but I told it kindly I was busy. I bought a table at a church sale, and 2 chairs that didn't match but agreed not to fight. On the windowsill I planted basil in a coffee can, because something green felt necessary. Home is not what you have. It's what you're not afraid to lose because you know you can build again. Orlando's print shop had more hope than square footage. Shelves of paper. A guillotine cutter that scared me and thrilled him. A press that shook the floor like an excited dog. He'd bring home proofs and ask, "Mustard or gold?" I'd point and say, "Gold," and he'd act like I'd rescued the whole project from disaster. We learned each other's tired. We learned how to argue softly and apologize like we meant it. We learned that it is easy to promise and harder to repeat the promise on a Wednesday, when the bus is late and the sink is full. We did the hard part. We repeated ourselves in kindness. News from the old edge of the city came in crooked envelopes, or through people who knew people. Paved roads had arrived, so had new problems. Ivy was busy as always, organizing petitions for a clinic, reading at a church meeting, being louder than anyone who told her to hush. I wrote back that I was proud of her. I told her about the basil, how it kept trying no matter where I put it. Plants and girls. You can't make them grow where they're not meant to. You did right to go. Sometimes I cried after those letters, not from sadness, but because gratitude can be heavy too. Years turned quietly. I learned the warehouse by heart, where the drafts came in, which supervisor used meanness like a tool, which one used fairness like a better one. I got good at the math of survival. What to mend, what to replace, when to rest, when to risk. I asked for a small raise and was shocked to get it. That's how small I still was in my own mind. I decided to grow a little taller there. Orlando and 2 partners moved the shop to a bigger space with a front window. He taped up the first poster they ever printed there, OPEN. And I stood on the sidewalk and cried at the most ordinary word in the language. We didn't go on grand vacations. We took the bus to the park and let the trees do their quiet work on us. We split a paper bag of donuts and gave the powder to our faces by accident. Sometimes we went to used book markets and brought home titles with other people's notes in the margins. I loved seeing where a stranger had argued with a paragraph. It made me brave enough to argue with my own past. One spring I went back. I don't know why. Maybe to see if the girl who ran could meet the woman who stayed gone. The road was paved now, but I could still feel the dirt under it like a ghost. The house looked smaller, as if the years had taken bites out of it. When no one was watching, Ivy met me at the corner. We held hands and didn't make any speeches. She said, "I knew you'd be all right." I said, "I didn't." We laughed the laugh of people who already forgave the past for not being kinder. I didn't knock on my parents' door. Some doors take more than knuckles to open. I left a letter in the mailbox that said, "I am safe. I hope you are too." Then I went back to the bus stop that had waited for me all these years. Every long life has a winter that tests what you built. Ours was a year of broken machines, and a landlord who discovered greed. We counted coins again the way I had on that stoop. Only this time we counted together. We sold the second chair, ate soup, made jokes thin as our wallets. I took extra shifts and came home with hands that didn't unclench until morning. When the tax bill finally got paid, we hung it on the fridge like a diploma. Survival should get ceremonies too. We never had much, but we had enough to make room. Niece and nephews visited. Later, grandnieces and grandnephews. They thought our apartment was small, and our love enormous. I accepted the compliment. The basil lived 9 lives. I learned that plants like company. So do people. We kept a spare blanket folded on the couch for anyone whose life had sprung a leak that week. No one left hungry. That was the rule. I learned how to listen to the woman who talked too loud, because she was afraid no one would. I learned how to be kind, without being a doormat, and firm, without being a wall. I learned that most skills are just care dressed up fancy. Care with numbers, care with fabric, care with other people's hours. If you care long enough, someone calls it leadership. I called it being my mother's daughter. Now I am 71. My face is a map of everywhere my feet were brave. Each line keeps a story sharp. The trains still visit my nights. Sometimes I wake before dawn and make coffee the old way. Slow and respectful. Orlando shuffles in, hair the color of winter light, and kisses my temple like I am a promise he kept. His shop is smaller again. Everything gets bigger than smaller, then just right if you're lucky. He still brings home proofs, and asks my opinion like it could save the world. Maybe it can. Maybe saving the world just means choosing the kinder yellow and living with it. People want to know the bravest thing I ever did. They expect something you can see from far away. Here is my answer. I opened the door and stepped through. That's all. That's everything. Bravery is a door you open exactly as many times as life asks you to. I would tell her, your fear is not a prophecy. It's a guard dog that doesn't know when to stand down. Thank it, feed it, and walk past it anyway. I'd tell her, you will be hungry and you will be held. Both truths can live in the same week. I tell her, love is not about rescue. It is about company. You do your saving. Then you let someone good keep you company while you live what you saved. If you have a before dawn inside you, if there is a door you touch sometimes, and pull your hand away, hear me. You do not have to be sure. You just have to be moving. One step is a revolution if it's the step out of the cage. When I close the window at night, I thank the girl who ran. I thank Ivy for her brave goodbye. I thank Mrs. Azira for onions and mercy. I thank Orlando for making words stick and promises too. I even thank the old house for teaching me which kind of silence is dangerous and which kind lets you rest. Tell me in the comments the moment. Your life divided into before and after. Tell me what you carried. Tell me what you left. I read every word because once upon a time a stranger read me, and that is how I survived. If these stories put a small lamp on your road, subscribe. Around here, we don't waste memories, we plant them. Some bloom right away. Some keep the winter company. All of them, if tended, become the map you can hand to someone younger and say, here, there's a door. It opens.